Good evening, Willowdale, and welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, NeighbourLink North York's weekly interview series. Every Monday, we introduce you to a new neighbor in the spirit of building a more connected community, and we ask them tough questions like, what's the best way to get in the holiday spirit this weekend? Here to answer that question and more is Willowdale's very own Laura Puiras. Laura has been in Willowdale long enough to remember back when the Shepherd Center was home to the Shepherd Grand Movie Theater. And as a former Cardinal Carter alumni, go Cardinals, I remember that theater very well. Fun Willowdale fact, the Disney Channel original movie Phantom of the Megaplex was actually filmed at the Shepherd Center Shepherd Grand Cinema for all my Phantom of the Megaplex fans out there. Now, back to Laura. After studying early childhood education at Ryerson and getting her master's of theological studies from Tyndale, she's now a local pastor working with children and youth right around the corner from where she grew up. And Laura has been a valued member of our Christmas parade and market planning committee. We're really excited to talk about all the details and get you pumped up for the event on Saturday, December 4th, coming up in just a few days. And before we bring out Laura, I wanted to mention that tomorrow is a really super special day. It is Giving Tuesday, the beginning of the giving season. It's a day to support your favorite local charities. So here at NeighbourLink, we've set a fundraising goal of $50,000 so that we can continue our community care work, alleviating poverty and social isolation right here in Willowdale through and into 2022. A huge thank you to everyone who has donated so far. And if you'd like to contribute, you can definitely do so at neighbourlink.org/donate. That's neighbourlink.org/donate. And one of the issues that we're tackling is food insecurity in our community. One of the ways we do that is through our food bank, the 415 Food Hub. Now, how about I introduce our host, Lily Chang? Maybe we could talk a little bit about it because this was a very exciting weekend at NeighbourLink for us. So here's our host, Lily Chang. Hey, Lily.
Hey, Sebastian, or person behind the NeighbourLink logo.
You will never see me, but I am here. How's your weekend?
It was good. It was good. I was pretty tired after Friday. We served 80 families at our second ever food bank day where we gave out food at the 415 Food Hub.
I was just, we were talking about it this morning too, about seeing the room filled with like so many healthy and nutritious options and lots of greens. What were some of the items that these families brought home with them from the food bank?
Yeah, so, we've been serving people who are food insecure throughout the pandemic. And for the most part, we've been, partnering with existing food banks. And we noticed that oftentimes the food that families receive is canned food, non perishable, as well as a plenty of carbs. I thought about it. And, when I go grocery shopping for my family, I make sure we get lots of greens and fruits because that is what is fresh and healthy. And when we did a survey of some of our neighbors, they said that they really don't like going to food banks because they don't like to eat canned food, which I think is a fair thing to say.
hmm
Now, given, rising food costs, non-canned foods is increasingly more expensive. So I was so excited, to envision this food bank with our team that it would provide more fresh food options. And so with the generosity of our community and a grant, we were able to provide things like oranges, apples, pineapples, bananas, broccoli, cucumber, peppers, a beautiful assortment. A lot of nutritionists say that the more colors on your plate, the healthier it is. And I think we put a lot of colors out there in our food hub this past Friday. So it's really a beautiful thing that we can, do this. And it's only because of the generosity of our neighbors that we're able to do something I think that's a little different than existing food banks.
Absolutely. And, talking about Meet Your Neighbor, it's also just an amazing opportunity for us to get to know members of our community. That's one of the things that, I treasure most of, the Thanksgiving food hub pop-up that we were able to do. And this past one is just getting to know our neighbors. And we've got another one December 22nd, which I'm really excited for, just right before the holidays. That again will just be about bringing abundance to the community and healthy food. So that's where, these donations can go directly to, is as helping to feed families in our neighborhood. But yeah, I'm glad we could reflect on that. And I see Laura waiting in the wings, so I'm excited to listen to that conversation. So I'll throw it to you, and I'll see you later.
Great. Thanks so much, Sebastian. And so I'm so excited to be chatting with a dear friend. And I still remember the first night I met her. It was an unfortunate circumstance that brought us together. I met her on the evening of the Yonge Street tragedy, and a group of us met at Puck and Wings to consider how we might support our neighbor through such a terrible thing that happened right in the middle of the heart of our neighborhood. And together, as a mom, I like to use birthing analogies. We birthed We Love Willowdale. And since that day, we have had many, many adventures together, because that was, almost, I think, 3.5 years ago now. And what I love about Laura is she is one of those people who isn't afraid to dream, and not just dream, but bring those dreams into fruition. So let us give a warm welcome to Laura Puiras.
Thank you so
Hello.
much. That
Yeah.
was a very nice introduction. Has it already been 3.5 years?
Yes. 2018. We
Yeah.
met in 2018. It's 2021 now. And yeah, I remember meeting you and just thinking, here's someone who, has a tremendous amount of empathy and compassion for the community, love for Willowdale, as well as someone who is creative and really wanted to be part of this movement that somehow we all felt called to start in the wake of such a difficult moment. Can you tell us a little bit about, what you were thinking that night as you kind of looked at, a lot of us were strangers. We were brought together by Jesse James, who now works for our city councilor. What were you thinking at that table?
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Jesse James, I guess, for bringing all of us together. Jesse and I were studying together at Tyndale at the time. So I think some of my initial thoughts of getting in touch with him were kind of just like, are you and Joe okay? Because I know that they live in the neighborhood, and had checked in originally there, and he's like, yeah, we're okay, but like a bunch of us are gonna get together. And I was like, awesome, I'll be there. So here we were sitting at this like big tall table at Puck and Wings, and I felt so out of my element because I didn't know anything. And here's Lily like, oh yeah, we should get in touch with John Fillion's office, and here's Marcus's number, whatever. And I'm just like, how does this woman know so many things about things? Like everybody's conversation, it was just so fascinating to see how there was such a difference in who we were, and yet we were all brought together for the sake of our community. And I think that was really beautiful. I think a lot of us were kind of still in the initial stages of shock, really. Like none of us could really process what had happened or understand even the repercussions for the community. But to be together with some people that were really actively trying to think of what we could do to move forward and to support our neighbors and to really bring about some active change was really healing, I think, right in that beginning time. So,
And I think what is beautiful about what we shared together, even now, is just the ripples that that night has had on all of our lives, including the friendships that we now still have, almost 4 years later, that we have, I think, in some way brought some redemption to a very dark time, in how we fought so hard to build the community that we know we all need. And not just on a large scale through We Love Willowdale, but also on a one-on-one scale, that we now, we've wept together, we have prayed together. We're no longer just people who work on a project together.
definitely.
And I was just thinking that, at the time you were a congregation member at Wellspring,
Mhm.
and from that point, you've now journeyed into becoming a pastor at Toronto LifeSpring, that, for everyone who's watching, is located in the building of Willowdale Pentecostal on Comer Avenue across from St. John's Rehab. So it's a thriving church that happens on the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And Laura, can you maybe share a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning, especially in this context, that I did not know anything about LifeSpring before. I had no idea that this little church existed, even though they were right around the corner from Wellspring where I was attending. But it was actually through We Love Willowdale, through one of the people that I met there, through Fiona. Fiona was able to offer me a summer job that summer, and then the next summer the church called me back and was like, "Hey, can you come back?" And I was like, "We'll see." And they're like, "No, but really, would you please consider coming back?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe I will consider that." And then I did, and then I ended up starting an internship, and now I'm full-time working there. And so I think that in and of itself is such a beautiful example of how getting to know your neighbors and getting to know your community can be so valuable. I mean, you never know what kind of jobs you're going to get out of it. But yeah, I wanted to mention that for sure because I think that goes hand in hand with this. But yeah, I'm working at LifeSpring. I am an associate pastor there, which is pretty exciting. I work mostly with our children and our youth. We have a whole lot of them. So it definitely keeps me busy. There's lots to do. I'm currently in the process of getting our baby dedications taken care of, and we have so many baby dedications backlogged from COVID that we're going to be doing a dedication like every month from January up until May. It's going to take us to Mother's Day with like multiple babies per week. So, like, there's so much to figure out, but they've been a gracious group of people to get to know. And I really do feel like I'm part of the family there. And it's been a lot of fun, as well as challenging, obviously, through COVID. But
Yeah, I think churches across Willowdale have definitely had to pivot through the pandemic. What is one way, that you have sought to keep fostering community even during the pandemic?
yeah. Well, thank the good Lord for Zoom. Things I never thought I would say, right? I think we've been able to connect a lot that way. Our pastoral team used to meet every week in person and go for lunch afterwards. And throughout the pandemic, we were meeting on Zoom. And so we would still make sure that we had that face to face kind of interaction. And with our kids, I learned how to play the ukulele so I could like make it a little more interactive for the kids. So a lot of technology really needed to step in, or we needed to really rely on that to stay in touch with one another. We did some church gifts so that we would deliver some gifts and care packages along the way throughout COVID, and just trying to remind people like, listen, we miss you and we love you and you matter so much, and we can't wait to be back in person. But until then, here's a silly Christmas card of our staff team in hats and stuff, which of course. So I think, yeah, it was a lot of improvising. You're really forced to get creative, as people know, right? This is not something new. I know everybody has really needed to kind of, like you were saying, pivot, which obviously everyone's thinking about Ross right now, trying to move her couch through a staircase. Yeah, it's a lot of improvising, a lot of creativity, but I think it is so worth it. It is so worth it to do whatever we can to really connect, however we can connect.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely been a challenge, and I admire every pastor and leader in the neighborhood, that, because yeah, not just churches, but any business owner, restaurant owners, just the constant pivoting with grace is not easy. So kudos to you for continuing to do what you do. Now, a lot of people maybe have never talked to a pastor in their life, and possibly you don't look like someone who they might imagine when they're imagining what a typical pastor looks like. When did you know in your life that, oh, this is my calling?
That's a great question also. I never thought I would do this. I used to want to be a teacher. I wanted to be maybe be like a missionary and travel and do like work for good and for God and anywhere else, really. I never thought of myself settling down as a pastor, but when I was studying at Tyndale, I just honestly am a bit of a nerd when it comes to the Bible. I just wanted to learn everything I could possibly learn. So that's all I wanted to do. And then the joke was kind of on me because while I was there, people were like, hey, you're actually really gifted at preaching. And I was like, what? And people started talking about us as leaders. And I was like, I'm not a leader. Like, I'm just Laura. Like, what are you talking about, leader? But it was within actually a community, right? A community of students. We studied really closely. So that's where I met Jesse James. And through this tight-knit community of students, they were really able to say, like, hey, we see something in you. Like, it seems like God has really made you in a way to be, I don't want to say used. I think we've maybe could think of some better language, but to partner with God in ministry, I think could really be something for you. And I didn't see that for myself. And again, I will always plug community because it's so important to be with other people. And they were able to see something within myself that I didn't recognize. But once they started calling it out, something resonated, right? Like something just clicked. And I could really understand what they were seeing because I began seeing it within myself. And so it was definitely a gradual thing. And still when people ask me like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, I'm actually a pastor. I worked my way off from like just giggling afterwards because it's just a strange thing to think about. And so, yeah, a lot of people like, oh, I've never met a pastor like you before. And I'm hoping that that begins to change. I'm hoping that it's not as strange to see a young woman as a pastor. And I think we are coming a long way in the church. But yeah, it was definitely a gradual thing. But I really just love God and talking about him and sharing the good stuff that I see God doing. And it kind of makes sense that I would be in a pastoral type of role. So
Well, I love what you're saying about the importance of community and how in community we can identify and call out the good that we see in people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really the opposite of unhealthy community, or let's call it social media, where it's so easy to identify the not so good and keep calling it out of each other. And that's what I think is more the norm now in, our modern culture. But my hope is that we can foster this kind of healthy and positive community where we call out the good in each other, because that's the only way that we're all going to survive this.
Yeah.
Right? It's yeah, and I see a lot of it on social media. And so actually I wanted to share an idea that I have for next year.
Classic conversation with Lily. Oh, I have an idea actually. You want to hear an idea? Yes, I do, Lily. Tell me the idea.
So the idea is that we are going to declare 2022 the year of kindness in Willowdale.
Ooh.
That's right.
Lily's idea. I love it.
So, and we will invite businesses, churches, synagogues. We will invite everyone to interpret what it means to be part of a kindness movement in Willowdale. And somehow by the end of the year, we will have this tapestry of kindness that has woven its way through our neighborhood in different expressions. And I just think we all really need this. I think we need to give kindness, but we also all need to be recipients of kindness. given how complicated and in some ways unstable the world has been feeling more and more lately. We just need to remember that we can contribute and that we can contribute with kindness.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really great. And I think that that will come very naturally to the people of Willowdale, because I think we've seen a lot of kindness, overwhelming kindness, and kindness that surprises you. And then you're like, wait, why am I surprised by this? Like, this is so much of what we see within the heart of Willowdale and within the people around our neighborhood. And so I think some people will be like, oh, we're already doing that. But I think it's important to highlight it, right? I think it's a really, really valuable thing. And like you were saying, especially right now where things are in the world, I think we need a lot of kindness. And kindness goes a long way, as cheesy as that is. I think that'd be really great.
Yeah, it'll be like, dandelions when you blow on them and then like the whole seeds just scatter. That's kind of my picture for what can happen. And
filled with dandelions.
yeah.
Kindness.
But
Yeah.
really, we saw so much kindness in the aftermath of the Young Street tragedy. That's how we built We Love Willowdale. And then we did our first ever We Love Willowdale Christmas parade in 2019. This is Christmas before the pandemic.
That's
and what a beautiful thing on a very cold night.
It was so cold. It was so cold.
But we decorated ourselves with lights and we walked down Kenneth Avenue with over 100 people, maybe 150. And then we sang at Lee Lifeson Park. We had hot chocolate and it was such a beautiful thing. And meanwhile, we were doing that. You were at Lee Lifeson with a real Christmas tree, I think.
Yeah, I set up a Christmas tree. I said I would decorate everything. And so I got a Christmas tree and some lights, and I literally just decorated a Christmas tree in Lee Lifeson Park. Which in the moment felt like a really normal and obvious thing to do. But looking back, it was a first and maybe last.
It's kind of like you were a guerrilla Christmas decorator, like you had a street team, just go in there and do it on the down low.
Yeah, right. It's like the kindest way to vandalize a space. It's just
Yeah.
Christmas stuff all of a sudden.
Yeah, kind of like how, what is it called when a whole bunch of people suddenly appear and start dancing?
Like a flash mob?
Yeah, like a flash.
I wanted to do that. Anyway,
a flash Christmas decoration. We just all land in somewhere and just wave a magic wand and suddenly it's like you've created a scene.
Yeah. Some people might really hate that though.
Yeah.
We would need to decorate wisely and
Yes.
do a little bit of a vetting process, make sure people are going to be okay with it.
This year, we are undertaking this parade one more time. And in our 2.0 version, instead of Christmas caroling together, which, we think might not be worth the COVID risks, instead, we are having a Christmas market. Originally, it was supposed to be a mini Christmas market. But,
Lily? Tell everyone what happened, Lily. How did our mini market not become a mini market?
We had this small meeting and it was like, oh yeah, well, it'll just be 10 vendors, just maybe 5, maybe 10 at the most. Mini, really mini. And
put it in the
chat. So now we're at 40 vendors and we're very excited. And I'm excited because David Chen, the watercolor artist, I've already DM'd him for the prints that I want. And there's a woman selling kimchi. One of the youth workers who serves the young children at 415 Willowdale, she's selling some of her handmade jewelry that is sold to support the work that she does with children in the community. We have two youth also from Willow Tree who are selling their clothing line. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, they are called the 98 Apparel. And if you know anything about Willowdale, you'll know that there's a certain bus that runs somewhat frequently, somewhat on schedule. The 98. So their clothing line is actually named after the 98 bus because it is so local in Willowdale. And they've got some really great designs. They have they've designed these really beautiful shirts, some really cool stuff. And they are going to be showing Willowdale at this Christmas market what they have available. So if you're interested in buying some really great clothing, they've got some sweaters and hoodies and t-shirts and that kind of stuff. They mentioned they might be doing some Christmas designs just for the market. So I'm excited to see what they come up with for that. But it's really just been born out of a desire to try something new. And so some of their leaders came alongside of them and were like, cool, let's make this happen. What do you need? And then it's just sort of, again, been birthed. This little clothing line. So this will be kind of their debut market. They're quite new to this, but I think, again, being in such a kind neighborhood as Willowdale, I think it'll be a great place for them to launch out into this. So I'm really excited about them. Can I tell them about the most exciting person for me?
Yes, of course you can.
Guys / people, folks, listen. There is going to be a table at our Christmas market with a guy named Wayne. Wayne is one of my favorite people in the neighborhood, and he is often seen selling keychains or bracelets between, I don't even know, like the Tim Hortons and what used to be the Shoppers on the west side of Yonge, just south of Mel Lastman, north of Shepherd. And Wayne is homeless. And although he's experiencing homelessness, he lives a clean and sober life. He chooses to do what he does, and he is a wonderful person to chat with and to get to know. And so when we started talking about this Christmas market and Lily's dreaming and then I start dreaming, the two of us are like, and what about this? And part of this market, though, is that by creating a space in our neighborhood to open up some tables and to say, hey, come and join our market. Wayne is not the type of person you would ever see in the Distillery District. You're not going to see him out in the cute little like Blue Mountain villages. Like that's not where you're going to see him. But we are able to give him a table just for free and to say, hey, come sell your keychains. We'd love to give you as much business as possible just to be able to pour back into you and to help you out, especially when it's wintertime, right? And it's all of the holiday season stuff, but it's also just cold, and a little bit of extra money would go a long way. And so we're going to have some people set up in our Christmas market who you would never see in a Christmas market anywhere else. And I think that just makes me so excited and so happy because I think that's kind of what it's all about, right? I mean, why wouldn't we do that if we have the space for it? So Wayne is going to be there, and I'm super excited for that. So do check him out. I should have had my keychain here, but
I know. I was just thinking, oh, I should have my keychain with me, but and his handiwork is quite impressive. I mean, he kind of does this knotted braid that is quite intricate. And I do worry about, how cold it is and how he is able to weave those patterns. So, but it was great. We got to chat with him a couple weeks ago, and I look forward to seeing him at the market. He will definitely be one of my top vendors that I want to go and visit and maybe get a lanyard from him this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we also have another artist, a young man who's also from the 415 Willowdale neighborhood, and he is an aspiring graffiti artist. I've seen his work. It's quite incredible, and he's been making pieces for our market. So
Yeah.
there's quite a beautiful spread of different artisans. We've got cookie bakers and kimchi makers. And what better way to say Merry Christmas from Willowdale than a jar of homemade kimchi for your friends, right?
Yeah, really.
So why not, instead of, I know today's Cyber Monday and people are online shopping, but I really think that for the holiday season, if people are looking for some really unique gifts that are going to mean something a little more than, something bought in a store, that this market is going to provide an opportunity to find some of those unique gifts.
Mhm.
Support local Saturday. That's right.
Um, yeah, are you gonna mention that people can also bring stuff to the market if they would like to bring some canned goods or
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's right. So, yeah, because we have now launched a food bank, what's really exciting about our model for the food bank is, we have two rooms. One is called the produce room, and the second room is called the pantry room. And the pantry room is where all of our non-perishable goods are. And uh, this past Friday, we, emptied most of the stock that we had. And now we need to rely on our neighbors to refill our stock, especially because we have another date on December 22nd, where, our neighbors can come and shop. And we really want to give our patrons a shopping experience. Yeah, a lot of food banks, they just give out a box. And we've also heard from people whom we serve by picking up food bank food for them. They say, like, oh, I could only use 50% of this box because I don't drink coffee, or I don't like eating this. Or so giving people the dignity of choice, I think, also prevents food wastage. And so we're just leaning into the generosity of Willowdale to replenish our shelves this Saturday. If people can bring some non-perishable goods, that will help us have more to offer for our Christmas food bank.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, and can I just say, um, there is this one of the women who came in, and I said to her, she's like, how did you guys make this possible, right? She's looking at all the selection. And I said, actually, we're supported by our local community.
Mhm,
So it's a combination of neighbors and churches and local businesses, but it's all your surrounding neighborhood that has made this possible, that has provided the food and the resources to purchase the produce. And she just looked amazed. She was like, "Really?"
Aw.
What? And I think her reaction made me feel like, she felt cared for by her surrounding community. I do think sometimes that those who are living in poverty in the middle of Willowdale, um, feel a tremendous sense of disconnect from their surrounding neighborhood, because there's just such a disparity in experience of life. And they may feel like, wow, who really cares about me? Who cares that I'm here in Willowdale? And I'm hoping through our 415 Food Hub that they can hear this message really loud, like, the neighborhood cares. The neighborhood cares about you. And just like we were saying earlier, identifying the good that we see and calling it out of people. So even, some of our volunteers, including lead volunteers, are from the neighborhood that we serve. So it's not about us parachuting in and trying to save the day. It's about a group of diverse community members, dreaming something together and bringing it to fruition.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah.
Fun fact about dreams and bringing things to fruition. In the future, someday, Willowdale, we hope to have at our modest, humble little parade a rickshaw. Someone dressed up as a reindeer pulling Santa on a rickshaw.
Yeah.
This is our like ultimate dream, and maybe someday we'll actually need to dream up like a float.
I know.
Maybe we'll be big enough to be like a parade, but until we're able to do that, we've
I
got our
know.
plans and dreams we'd love to see come to fruition.
It's funny because I was thinking about, oh, I try to say to people, oh, it's like an old-fashioned walking Christmas parade. But then I think, did this really happen? Is there such a thing? Like a long time ago, did somebody do this?
Long time ago in Lily's imagination, people just walked in parades.
But
Yes,
we have an amazing Santa. Did you see the video?
yes, it's so good. It's so good. I think
He
it's
looked
really fun because with this type of community parade and event and market now, like as it's growing, and I think as people have kind of been in this place of not having anything to look forward to or having very few things to look forward to, having virtual events to look forward to, for there to now be an opportunity to physically, like in person, be at an event is super exciting. So seeing people get really pumped about helping out and stepping in and getting involved and bringing their own flavor to what we have is really, really exciting and has been really cool to see um, how unique that is, right? And so I think we're going to see a lot of that on Saturday. And I think that's definitely something to be looking forward to. And I think the fun thing too with this walking parade is that we kept talking about it like we are the floats. Like, no, we can't have like a massive parade down Yonge Street. Like, although, this one group did it once, which is not the point of this interview. But we get to bring our own flavor. And so we get to wear Christmas sweaters and those silly, obnoxious, like light up anything, like deck yourselves out in that. Like we get to bring brightness and like that Christmas sparkle or whatever you want to call it to our streets, right? And this year we're actually going to be walking up Yonge Street. And so anybody driving south at that time is going to get to see a whole bunch of people decked out in the silliest holiday get-ups. They're going to see a karaoke Santa walking and singing down Yonge Street. Like, this is going to be a really fun parade for anybody who gets to watch it. And it's so fun to be part of something like that, right? When you know that you're bringing something a little different. It's almost like it's like an organized flash mob. Like, we've come together and we're doing this thing and it's different and it's going to be fun. And it's a bunch of people coming together to do something different and joyful. And I think that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and we all need a little bit of that right now. We need a
Yes.
little bit of joy, we need a little bit of community, we need some fun, some surprise,
Yeah.
some wackiness. We've actually extended the invitation to dog owners to dress up their pets and join in our parade. So, and we're trying to convince Pet Mart, which will be passing, to perhaps have a few biscuits ready in case there's some,
Woo!
yeah, four-legged friends that pass by. And
That's awesome.
so, yeah, the other thing is we live in a very consumer society.
Mhm.
So it's easy for us to just passively consume things such as, Netflix, which I think a lot of people
Yeah.
passively consume,
Who does that?
or social media.
Yeah.
But to take part, to participate, to walk in a parade, that I think is the invitation.
Mm.
And I think what I love most about it is a chance to meet more neighbors and to keep dreaming what We Love Willowdale can do and what it can mean to the neighborhood together. And it's kind of like a snowball that we are building together, right? It started with a few of us and it's
Mhm.
rolling and it's rolling and it's growing. Like it's growing to 40 vendors in our in our mini market. But through this adventure, I think we're building new pathways for how we can know and care for each other.
Yeah.
And we get to create some memories together, Laura. And
Yeah.
that
Always fun. Always fun. Yeah. I do want to throw out too that as we're all coming together, please wear a mask. We're asking people to wear masks. We do still want to be wise about how we go about a massive event like this, which is becoming way larger than we expected it to be. But in the spirit of kindness and in the spirit of wanting to really love our neighbors, let's make sure that we are keeping our distance from people as much as we're able to. And if you can't be distanced safely, then definitely be wearing a mask. Yeah, it's so, like you were saying, that consumeristic way of thinking is like, oh, for me, for me, for me, for me, for me. And maybe for me, it might feel nice not to wear a mask, but maybe for other people, it's important to remember that we do still have vulnerable people around us, and COVID is still a thing. That doesn't mean we don't get to have fun. That doesn't mean we don't get to spread joy and light, like literally little twinkly lights everywhere. Like, let's make the most of what we can do, but let's also be really wise about how we go forward with that. I think that's worth mentioning too. So find a nice mask, like get creative, make a Christmassy mask, like whatever it is that you need to do. Make it your own and have fun with it, but do remember that that is something that we're asking people to do as well for this Christmas parade.
I feel like we need a poster. Spread joy, not COVID.
Yeah, keep your germs to yourself.
Well, Laura, it's been great to chat with you. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We always end with a rapid fire, few questions that we just want to, and if you fail this test, then you won't be allowed to be called a Willowdaler after this.
Oh no! I'm really scared, and I should have prepared for this.
No. It's not trivia. It's not trivia.
Okay.
What is your favorite spot to hang out in Willowdale?
Centerpoint Mall food court. I just said that. That's my answer.
Serious? That can't be a real thing.
That's the first thing that came to mind. Well, when I went to New York, right, we would always hang out there after school. I don't love that this is my answer, but that.
So your answer is Laura circa 19 or like 2005 or something. What is your favorite place to eat in Willowdale? And it can't be Centerpoint Mall food court.
Can't be Centerpoint Mall food court. I'm really loving Eat BKK right at Young and Steeles. It's so good. I may or may not have ordered it tonight.
Yes, that's amazing food. What sets Willowdale apart from other neighborhoods?
Ugh. Well, I'm biased. For me, it's just home. I'm gonna say Mel Lastman Square skating rink. No one's recording these answers, right?
Oh, it's being documented. It's actually going to be on YouTube. So, okay, that's a very interesting answer.
Well, no one's going to have these answers.
That's true. Very unique. How has Willowdale changed over time?
I think in the most recent years, I think there is, I would say, a kindness and a community feel to it more than I remember growing up and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's just because I'm more aware of it, because I'm involved with it, or if it's truly changing. But I feel like people are, in a lot of ways, opening up to one another more. And there is a lot more kindness out there. I'd like to think that's everywhere, not just Willowdale, but we'll say it's like a Willowdale thing.
Is there a hidden gem in Willowdale?
Toronto LifeSpring.
Dave, if you're watching.
They're not.
What's one thing you'd love to see more of here in Willowdale?
I'd like to see more Waynes. I would like to see more people who are experiencing homelessness in different ways, able to have their own space and bring whatever it is that they bring to the table. And yay, there's Wayne! There he is. This is the one, guys, I took this one picture just this one time. I just took it and it worked and it's so perfect and I kind of want to frame it. But yeah, I would love to see more Waynes. I would love to see people truly connecting with people that are different than themselves in the community. I'd love to see more of that.
And we saw a lot of that in the community dinners following for the commemoration of the Young Street tragedy. Just people transcending their culture and language barriers, and so it's a beautiful thing, and we hope to see more of it. Yeah. Last question: what is your most memorable Willowdale moment?
I think it's kind of one of those like joy and sorrow sort of came together. Our walk of solidarity. I think that is a very mind-boggling moment to be walking down Yonge Street that is completely shut off. The street is filled with neighbors. We've all come together after such a horrific event. And we've said, no, we're going to take back Yonge Street and we are going to join together on the streets. And maybe we feel safest right now because there are no cars allowed to drive. But we're taking it back little by little and step by step. And I think that walk of solidarity will never leave my mind. I think that might be my favorite moment.
Yeah, I remember when we were organizing the Reclaim Young Walk and we were like, are we going to close off Young? When will they decide if we're going to close off Young? And there's a question of whether it would be sizable enough to warrant it.
And we're like, no, like maybe just one lane beside the sidewalk, like if people overflow a little bit. So to get there the day of and see it all shut down was just like, whoa.
And we had these T-shirts that said, free hugs or prayers. And one of our volunteers happened to be beside Justin Trudeau, who said, oh, I'd like to cash in on this. and she got a hug from our Prime Minister. So,
yeah, unreal. I mean, I also have so many memories at Centrepoint Food Court and Mount Lashman Square skating, but I'm not allowed to share those apparently. So I'll just bypass those ones. Go for a big booming memory instead.
Well, I think part of the beauty of that memory is probably not even just the moment itself, but just how watching a dream from a seed of an idea and watch it get the momentum and support that it needed to become what it was, which I think was what we hoped it would be, a very healing exercise for our neighborhood to have a walk down Yonge Street to reclaim it after the tragedy. So it is etched, I think, in my mind for that reason as well.
And I don't think we're alone, which makes it even more special. I think that was a really significant memory for a lot of people, and sharing that makes it even more memorable, I think.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. I wish I could give you a hug.
Yeah, free hug T-shirts, I guess, get retired for a little while, but that's okay.
Well, those were bright orange. No one really liked that color, so those shirts have been retired. But we could do another version.
Hey, maybe we should
after COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for always dreaming with me for what we can do in our community. And we look forward to this Saturday, and we invite all of you who are watching to join us in dreaming the dream, and not just dreaming it, but being part of it.
Come and check it out. We'd love to have you there.
Woohoo! It's going to be so fun. I'm so excited. I'm counting down the days. Yeah. It's going to be so fun. And then we'll all go get, I don't know what is even still at the Centrepoint No, I'll just be too full of chili and free hot chocolate. But if I'm still hungry, we'll go to Center Point and enjoy. I don't know. I think there's maybe a KFC there.
Yeah.
I always remember this. Yeah, the smell of Canadian Tire wafting out onto that food court. It just smelled like rubber.
Nothing like rubber in my food court to make me feel like I'm at home.
Exactly. Amazing. Well, thank you, Laura, for joining us. Thank you, Lily, as always. That was so much fun. And thank you to everyone who tuned in for another installment of Meet Your Neighbor. The registration link is down at the bottom. But if you wake up Saturday and you want to come, you can attend, and there'll be a way for you to just quickly do a free little registration when you arrive, so that for contact tracing and all that good stuff, that we know who's there. So don't be deterred. You can definitely show up and join us spontaneously that day as well. So Willowdale, we will see you next time, same place, new neighbor next week on December 6th. If any of us are awake past the Christmas market and able to revive ourselves, we will be back next week and joined by some student volunteers from our Youth Mobilization Network to talk about their experiences this past summer and fall, and take a look at the community through their perspective as well. But until then, good night, North York. You go out and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Good night.
Bye.